Hello everybody, my name is Martinez from the Ecologic Institute, and I'm talking to you about the role the biophysical environment has on human interventions and the impact human interventions have on the biophysical environment. And this is all geared towards coastal risk management, which is the topic of today's session. What do we understand by coastal ecology? This can be either a system where individual and collective characteristics are in an interaction, or it can be an organism in an environment. That would be an organism-focused approach. Now, if we talk about coastal ecology, we define three different ecologies within the system: the biophysical ecology, the human ecology, and the institutional ecology. Under biophysical ecology, we understand either a politically bounded system, such a country, state, or county. It could be also a particular watershed and its nearshore area, or a biophysical system defined by a shoreline vegetation and their associated human-built artifacts. Under human ecology, we understand an ecological system in which humans are acting and where human behavior affects the system, the biophysical system, so to speak, and has an impact. This means human ecology. To give you an example about the human ecology, if we look at Europe, more than 40% of the EU 27 population is currently living in coastal regions in Europe. And this is an area usually where you have great values and a great productivity. You have a lot of heritage infrastructure because, especially in Europe, we have a history of more than 1,000 years where people used to live near the coast or nearby. There's a lot of built infrastructure near the coast, and of course there's a great magnitude for tourists to come to the coast. And this all leads to the fact that people continue to move to the coast despite the risks, which means living at the coast, that many people live there already. As I said, it's more than 40%, and that those humans shape, alter, and influence the coastal environment, the coastal ecology, the biophysical environment. Under institutional ecology, we usually understand institutions, governance institutions that govern or affect the behavior of those people living in the coastal ecology. This could be, for instance, an institution abroad, large institutions like the European Commission, who issued the Floods Directive. And obviously this Floods Directive is geared towards managing the risks in coastal areas better, empowering stakeholders in coastal areas to act better. And if you look at Europe, we had since 2000 alone, more than 200 floods already affecting humans in coastal areas in Europe. So clearly there is policy advice and policy measures and regulations needed. On the other hand, we do have a large body of non-governmental institutions who also act in coastal ecology and with respect to coastal risk and other issues. Finally, humans and institutions are made up of different values, different perceptions, different ways of dealing with a risk, and this is where culture comes into the place next to the institutional political setting, the social economic setting, and culture continues to influence the decisions taken by institutional ecology and also by human ecology. To sum up, the total ecology consists of a biophysical ecology, a human ecology, and an institutional ecology. Those three systems are bound to each other. They influence each other, and they are a system where institutionals and non-institutional organizations influence the ecology by their laws, policies, and regulations, where humans living in the ecological system are influenced in their behavior by laws, directives, and policies, and on the other hand influence those laws, policies, and directives by their opinion, by their way they go to elect policy leaders and others. And finally we have the biophysical ecology, the place, the ecology with a watershed, with a river, with a coast, where humans act and live and alter the system, where institutional laws and policies and non-institutional regulations impact how the area is used, developed, and this in turn affects back the humans living in this area. Finally, also we have scientists working with biophysical and social matters who stimulate, hopefully, policies and laws geared towards coastal development and coastal risk management. So, what is coastal risk management? It is the management of human behaviors and or culture towards a specific objective through a specific governance or non-governance system which affect or are affected by a biophysical coastal environment. In the RISC-KIT project, we wanted to understand the perspective of humans and institutions in Europe at the coast regarding the coastal risk, regarding living at the coast, regarding policy and other interventions, and acceptance and needs for disaster risk management. In order to understand those perceptions, we did desk research, meaning you look through archival material, you look at DRR policies and management plans at national and local levels, and you read academic and grey literature. We also did qualitative interviews in the 11 case studies of the RISC-KIT project. They were done between February and April in 2014, and they resulted in over 150 qualitative semi-structured interviews, which could take 45 minutes to 3 hours each. We also had a set of interviews done in 2015 in spring after some storm events had happened in some regions. So here we were interested to understand the immediate reactions after the storm and how that changed perceptions and maybe acceptance towards measures. Who did we interview? These were formerly coastal practitioners and authorities, so the institutional ecology, local residents, this would be the human ecology, and scientists. Next to the information on perceptions and motivations of people and institutions in the coastal areas, we were interested on hearing measures they would recommend for developing and implementing to manage the risk better. We captured those measures and they were discussed by the scientists working in the case study areas, and finally a set of up to 3 measures were chosen, which were being further worked out and modeled and being made available through the toolbox of RISC-KIT. However, next to those measures, which very often meant physical activities, or mostly physical activities, we had many measures being suggested which were primarily about better communication amongst different stakeholders, those issuing laws and policies and implementing them, and those living in the area, for instance. Sometimes we had also recommendations about better information about the risk of the area, about activities already undertaken, and a better cooperation amongst the stakeholders. Those information on physical and non-physical aspects of measures had a big variety regarding the cases, so they could be very different in their argumentation in a place in Southern Europe or in Western, Eastern or Northern Europe. So that means we don't have an homogeneous set of measures, but we have a local placed reality in which a measure has to function, and those measures can vary across Europe. So what we can say is that most flood-related disasters are not primarily a result of natural forces. Of course they do occur, but they are very often attributed to social, cultural, economic, political decisions being taken earlier. And when the nature-related process or event occurs, it has an impact. That means also that cultural values, political decision, economic situations drive, on the one hand, how a risk is perceived, on the other hand, what is the response to that risk, and how has been the society be prepared for the risk. Usually we tend to assess risk very much through cost-benefit analysis, and we rather avoid addressing ethical, cultural, and other societal larger contexts. Through the interviews undertaken in RISC-KIT and in other projects, it is quite clear that the human and the institutional ecology, so understanding the underlying reasons why institutions and humans act the way they do, and why they bring a certain perception towards a risk and a certain management of the risk to the surface. Why is that, and how can that be influenced and possibly changed?